so that we will not hear. In fact, we will vote by recorded vote. If there are any more nits to be picked, just bring them up and we'll deal with them. Now we will resume consideration of other business. And the first amendment is amendment number 30. And the gentleman will proceed and announce his name and move his amendment.
Thank you, Madam and Mr. Chair. My name is Aaron Regenberg. I'm a state representative from Rhode Island, and I rise today on behalf of 54 of my fellow Rules Committee members to introduce a proposal to abolish superdelegates in future presidential nominating contests.
Are there sufficient seconds? Clearly there are sufficient seconds. Mr. Regenberg is recognized. And now we have agreed on this as an exception, given its importance. Both sides have agreed for a 16-minute debate. So, Mr. Regenberg, you control 8 minutes to be used as you wish.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As sponsors of this amendment, we believe that the internal structures of our Democratic Party must reflect our core values. Right now, the superdelegate system does not do that. I'm a Democrat because I believe in democracy. I believe in the promise of one person, one vote that so many of our fellow Democrats have struggled and bled for. There is currently absolutely no rule keeping superdelegates in future cycles from overturning the will of the people, creating a perception among many of our voters that the system can be rigged. If we want to unite our party, to bring our party together to face the hate-filled campaign of Donald Trump, I can think of no better step than coming together to eliminate this anti-democratic structure and sending a message loud and clear that our party is in fact committed to diversity, committed to democracy, and values the will of the people over the interests of an elite and well-connected few. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Is there a speaker in opposition? The gentleman at the microphone is recognized.
In support. In support.
Oh, all right. Is there one in opposition? Well, you go ahead then. Save time.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of this Rules Committee of the Democratic Party. It has been alleged that if this resolution were adopted and this amendment were favored, I am Commissioner Jesus Chuy Garcia from Cook County, Illinois. And it's been stated that if this resolution were adopted, that it would pit elected officials or politicians against community activists who would be vying to become delegates to the convention. As a politician and a community activist in my community, all I can say is this is a silly argument to make. Today, there are approximately 4,700 delegates at this convention. This includes about 700 superdelegates and 4,000 activist delegates. Let's say that we eliminate all the superdelegates but keep 4,700 total delegates. Even if every single party insider who's a superdelegate this year ran as a delegate and won 4 years from now, we'd still have exactly the same number of spots for activists than we have today, 4,000. So if we think that having more activist delegates helps democracy, and I tend to, here's a wild idea. We could increase the number of pledged delegates even more. I think everybody here should seriously consider supporting this proposal. Thank you.
I've been instructed that the proponents prefer to take all their 8 minutes at once in support. So are you in support?
I am in support.
Okay, your name, please.
My name is Lillian Sharpley, and I represent the great state of Ohio. I am pleased to be here today to say that the position of Senator Sanders, the 750,000 voters who signed petitions, and my fellow members of the Rules Committee, I support eliminating superdelegates. Eliminating superdelegates is necessary because the government is for the people, by the people. Superdelegates is not a democratic process. And on the issue of inclusion, On the issue of racial justice, this is not justice. In 2012, the pledge committee made up 45% of the pledge committee was of people of color. The people who voted for President Obama in 2012, 45% were people of color. The superdelegates was 37%. That is moving us, skewing us away from adequate and equal representation of the people of color, the communities of people of color, sorry. So we as Democrats, it is our responsibility to be leaders, to set examples for inclusion. As we said today earlier in the opening statements, we heard words like inclusion, we heard diversity. We need to be about it. We need to be about it now. We need to trust the people to vote, and we need to demand racial justice and racial equality. Thank you.
The proponents have 3 minutes and 30 seconds left. Yes, ma'am.
I'm in support. My name is Mary Nishimuta from the Great Commonwealth of Kentucky. Our party prides itself on pursuing the equal representation and empowerment of women in all realms, in the workplace, in governance, and everywhere where it's an issue. While we do our best to represent and to recruit women to run for office, it's not required, obviously, that they are in office and that we elect them in office. And so here, as we define the representation of women at our own convention, we have complete control of that. I'm very proud that we have gender parity requirements for our pledged delegates. We should. I think it matters. Yet the superdelegate system means that women are not equally represented. In every recent cycle, superdelegates have skewed disproportionately towards men, and the voices of women are getting lost. How can we fight for equality for women in all other areas of our society if we don't care to ensure where we actually have the power to do so, that we do have equality? So I think it's time to put our money where our mouth is and ensure that women are equally represented in this convention by eliminating superdelegates in all future nominating processes. Thank you.
2.5 minutes left for the proponents of the resolution, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Jose Moreno from Anaheim, California. This movement to bring democracy back to our party's nomination process reaches a crescendo here today, or perhaps on Monday at the convention. But I want to be clear that it didn't start here. This movement has been brewing in our neighborhoods, our caucus sites, and state party conventions, as Democrats across the country have stood up and resist the idea that our rules potentially allow for a handful of party insiders to overturn the will of the voters. Democrats in nearly 20 states, including my home state of California, which as we all know voted for Hillary Clinton, have spoken out against this system in recent months. Even superdelegates such as Senator Elizabeth Warren have called for true reform. But this movement goes back further. In 2008, you may remember, people were aghast to learn that this system might tilt the balance in a contested race. So in 2009, a commission impaneled by the DNC and co-chaired by Senator McCaskill and Representative Clyburn proposed reforming the superdelegate system. These recommendations were supported by then DNC Chairman Tim Kaine. But those reforms were never implemented. We are the party of voting rights. Let's help finish that work today.
1 minute and 15 seconds is remaining, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Ken Zinn. I'm here as a delegate for the Rules Committee from the great state of Maryland. Also very happy to represent the 190,000 registered nurses of National Nurses United. Today, the Rules Committee has a simple choice. Either we believe in democracy or we don't. This is even a question in 2016 in a party with the name Democratic tells us all we need to know about the struggles over who will control this party, the people or the elites, the insiders. Is it Main Street or is it Wall Street? The superdelegate system is unrepresentative and elitist, privileging the will of a close-knit group of insiders over that of regular Americans. Astonishingly, these insiders are granted as much power in this convention this week as the voters of 23 states, 4 territories, the District of Columbia, and Democrats abroad combined. Today, we are seizing an opportunity to change this, an opportunity we have been afforded because of the millions of people who have used the primary process as a chance to stand up for popular democracy and against elitism and plutocracy. And we do it with the wind at our backs. As we heard, resolutions challenging the system of superdelegates were passed at party conventions in states across the country.
Time's expired. Please wind up your remarks.
So it's time to restore democracy to the Democratic Party, enshrine a system of one person, one vote when it comes to our party's conventions and choosing our nominees. It's the will of the people that this should be done. Thank you.
Are there speakers in opposition? Are there speakers in opposition? Yes. Okay, I recommend people try to get to the mic early. The chair from the perfectly adequate state of Massachusetts gets a little impatient. The gentlewoman is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This is the
Please
evidence.
identify yourself again.
I
We've
will,
got
Mr.
short
Chairman.
memory, Sheila.
We make opening remarks and include in there who we are as we do so. I wanted to greet you appropriately
You
and
still
be
haven't said who
co-chair.
you are, Sheila.
I am going to say that. Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. I'm out of the great state of Texas. Thank you. Let me greet the dignitaries again as well, but let me also greet my brothers and sisters. And let me thank those who have offered this amendment. For I'm reminded of our Constitution, which is a living document that has asked us to create a more perfect union. And so I am fully aware of those who have concerns with the superdelegate process. But I'm also aware of the issues of diversity and the balance that superdelegates have given. I'm reminded of the Platform Committee that held hearings all over the nation. My fellow delegates, we must hear voices that are not in this room today. That is the democratic way. That is democracy. I am moved by the words of those who have just spoken in support of their amendment. But I'm also moved by those who have not been able to come to this place. I want to hear them. I remind you that there are elected officials all over America. They're not big shots. They represent hamlets. They represent small cities. They represent a variety of places. And some have come to be superdelegates. That is opportunity. That is diversity. I'm also reminded of a failed process in 2009 when we attempted to do this and nothing happened. Let me be very clear. I want something good to happen. I want us to come to a resolution to make a difference, to be one team, to move forward and elect the next president of the United States. I want no one left alongside of the highway of despair because their voice was not heard. So to the proponents of this amendment, I thank you, and I thank you for your voice. But let us not yield to those other voices that need to be heard in this instance, and for that reason, I oppose this amendment at this time. I yield to
Further
Mr. Webb.
opposition, gentleman is recognized.
My name is Wellington Webb. I'm a Rules Committee member from Colorado and an at-large committee member, speaking on behalf of the Clinton campaign. Let me also say that in sharing Sheila's comments that she made earlier, I know that when I first started coming to these conventions, they didn't quite look like this. And the reason they didn't, because we didn't have gender parity. And we fought to make sure that that took place. I know at another point in time, we fought to make sure that we didn't have winner take all, so we wanted to make sure that we had proportional representation. So I think it's important that we understand that this Democratic Party is more open, more diverse than any other party in the United States of America. And we often try to find what's wrong with the party as opposed to trying to find what's right with the party. And so I think we need to give ourselves a pat on the back. There are diverse views within the party on the issue of superdelegates, unpledged delegates. Clearly, there are members on this committee and of this party that believe we should eliminate these delegates. I do not share that view. There are other members of our party that believe we must maintain the system in its entirety, and others believe that the system needs to be thoughtfully reviewed. I think it does, but I don't think we can do it 2 days before a convention. There's a time and a place, and this is the wrong time and the wrong place to do it.
That's not a point of order. That's a conversation. About, that's a rebuttal.
And
it's
I
not
think
a point
I have
of
the
order.
mic.
Well, it's not.
No. You're excused.
A point of order is a violation of procedure. People saying things you think are wacky is not a point of order.
So Mr. Chairman, let me say, and Madam Co-Chair, everyone agrees that this is a complicated issue. It's an issue that needs to be addressed, but it's not an issue that I believe that this body can definitely address today. The committee mandate is to make recommendations, and it's my belief that we should recommend a thorough review of our nominating process, not just superdelegates, but all of those processes, because I too, like Congressman Lee, I know a young man in the Colorado delegation that when he left Vietnam and came back from the war, he wanted to get involved, and he ran and ran until he became a superdelegate. And now he's here, his wife's here, and his son's here, the Rodriguez family. So it also has provided opportunities for participation. And so I stand on this belief that we as a party aren't perfect, but we can work towards making ourselves perfectible. Therefore, I also oppose this amendment.
Is there any further discussion in opposition?
Mr. Chairman, can I ask how much remaining time?
How much time remains? 3.5 minutes, which is optional but not required to be used.
Mr. Chairman, in conclusion, let me brag a little bit about the state of Texas and acknowledge that we have the largest number of disabled persons who have come to this convention. It is a statement about who we are as Democrats. And I just leave my delegation members with this point. There is a process to get answers. There are answers that need a process. If my fellow delegates can yield to that process so that all voices can be heard, I stand in opposition for the reason of wanting all voices to be heard across the country on this matter. I thank you, and I yield back.
Thank you. I would just note you have been present at a historic occasion when someone from Texas bragged about the state. We are now ready to vote. Well, sir, did you wish to speak in opposition?
I'm speaking in opposition. Sam Spencer,
Then
the
you
great
have
state of
some
North
time.
Carolina.
Go ahead.
As a young Democrat, let me just add shortly that we have been able to add so many more young Democrats across this country because of the superdelegate process, because young people do not have to run against party leaders, and I urge you to vote down this amendment.
If there are no further speakers, we will now vote by electronic device. So members who are in favor of the amendment will vote yes, i.e. push number 1. Members who are opposed to the amendment will vote no, that is push number 2. And the vote is now open. This being the first vote, we'll have extra time for people who are no more technologically skillful than I. And how much? We have about 10 seconds left. If you have not voted, please push your button. The time for voting has expired. On this vote, there were 58 yeas, 108 noes. The amendment is defeated. Is there a further amendment? Is there a further amendment? Is there a further amendment? Be fine with me if there ain't, but I suspect there is. Well, come to the microphone. I'm sorry. I apologize. If you have another amendment, you come to the microphone. The microphone will not come to you. I believe it is Maggie Wonderly is the one that we have from Vermont.
I submitted this. It's at the end, but it's related to the superdelegate.
Go right ahead. Bend the mic down, please.
I suggest that we have superdelegates, they can keep their status. But, oh, I'm sorry, I'm Maggie Wonderly and I'm from Illinois.
Which amendment?
Oh, which one? Okay.
Is it the one that says remove section 4 from Article 2, number 30?
Can you tell us which one you're speaking of?
Okay, well, if we're amending, then
Are you pulling this one down?
No.
the one, okay, sorry.
Please, do you want to offer an amendment, and if so, designate which one?
Okay, on mine,
Pulling this one down.
on my amendment, I have one to eliminate, and I'm adding an amendment.
All right, that's number 37, it says here.
Okay. 37.
All right,
So you're pulling that,
Okay.
that's the same one that we just.
It's the same one.
so what's your,
We can pull the same one, and I'm going to add an
Pulling
amendment.
37 down.
so you're not going to offer it?
That's, the one that's eliminating, I'm
You
going to.
were not going to offer it? Please don't help, because it don't help when
Okay.
people helps.
Okay.
Are you offering number
33 is
30?
the one I'm proposing to amend 37. That's what they were trying to say.
No, I'm sorry, we need to,
Which number?
let me,
Okay.
tell us which one you want to
Okay.
offer.
Okay. I'm going to offer one that I've already submitted as an amendment to this one.
I don't mean to be rude, Ms.
Okay,
Wonderly.
I'm so sorry.
What number, you know, because
33 is the one that I'm trying to.
so you were offering amendment 33,
Yes.
all right?
Trying to submit it.
Then explain it. Yes,
Okay.
you,
Okay.
all right, she is offering amendment 33. Give us a brief explanation, we'll see if there are seconds.
Okay. So the superdelegates are allowed to keep their status, but instead they will each receive 1/10 of a vote.
That's not the one that we have. That is not 33 that I have. Oh, all right, take it back.
Oh, yeah, they have 3 on one. I don't know why they did that, but they
Right.
put 3 on one.
The one I have for
So-
33, please, it has 2 proposals. One, it says with the understanding that all lobbyists will not be eligible.
It also has that.
And the 10th, so you're offering this, it has both of those.
Yes.
All right? Is there a number of seconds? Second. You may proceed with discussion of your amendment. Now we are back to 5 and 5 on the
Okay.
time. Please go ahead.
So basically, the lobbyists are not eligible to be unpledged delegates due to conflict of interest. And also, each of the superdelegates retains their status, but they each get 1/10 of a vote, which puts it more in line with your average state. So the superdelegates as a group get the same votes as an average state in the United States. And this way they will keep their status. They still get an outsized vote compared to the average voter. They still get 750 votes.
Stop for a minute, I'm told there's some, this is amendment number 33. 33. Please continue, that won't come out of your
Yes.
time.
So they will still get 750 times the vote of the equivalent of that compared to the average voter, instead of 7,500 compared to the average voter. So they still do have a special vote, and they can do a tiebreaker if it's a very close race. So I would ask you all to consider this as a compromise amendment.
Okay, is there someone in opposition? I don't mean, are you through, Ms. Wonderly, if you're finished?
I'm through, but support, we have support.
No, how much time we got left?
She spent 1 minute, 2 seconds.
All right, you have 4 minutes left in support.
Thank you. My name is Bruce Jacobs. I'm a former Miami prosecutor. I'm a foreclosure defense lawyer, and I'm the senior partner of the law firm of Jacobs Keeley in Miami, Florida.
Get closer to the mic, please.
I'm a Bernie delegate, and I'm here to fight against the idea of superdelegates in any
You
way
might
I
want to
can.
tilt the mic up a little
Certainly.
bit. It's bad acoustics in here. Go ahead.
I think that politicians must be accountable to the people, not to other politicians, not to superdelegates, and certainly not to Wall Street. The danger of superdelegates is that they encourage politicians to protect Wall Street over Main Street. For example, months ago, I personally gave Pam Bondi and Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz clear and convincing evidence that banks are still using false evidence in foreclosures to take people's homes. This violates the $25 billion national mortgage settlement that followed the robo-signing scandal. Some judges in Florida have just issued orders to show cause why the bank should not be sanctioned under the court's inherent contempt powers for fraud upon the court. Some have said this is a problem for the executive or the legislative branch to address. Yet I've heard nothing from either Ms. Bondi or Ms. Wasserman Schultz in the months since I've given them their evidence that would help me stop people from losing their homes. I think it's important that we limit in any way the superdelegate problem so politicians are accountable to Main Street and they do not protect Wall Street. This is one of Donald Trump's strongest arguments against our party. I hope we support this compromise amendments to curtail superdelegates for the good of our democracy and for the good of the Democratic Party.
Is there a further speaker in support? Ms. Wonderly, you may speak again if you wish. It's your amendment. You can use the
Yes,
time.
okay. So basically, I want to rebut the opposition from before on the previous amendment. This is the best way to get diversity because you know, the pledged delegates, if you're reducing their votes to a 10th, the unpledged delegates are the ones that are not as diverse and the ones that don't have equal division between the men and the women. So if you want diversity and you want an equal representation of the men and women, you want the majority of the votes to be with the pledged delegates. And also, after this, it is required that the DNC committee does approve this by a majority after it's voted on at the convention. So they were saying people in the room aren't represented who are elected officials, but the DNC will be voting on this afterwards and according to the rules. So that concern is not legitimate.
All right, there's a minute and 20 seconds left. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in support? Identify yourself, please.
Hello, my name is Skip Elvin Madsen from Colorado, a member of the Rules. I was around in the early 1980s when the Hunt Commission suggested what we now call superdelegates. And the idea was basically to take some power back from the activists in the party and give it back to the established officials of the Democratic Party, making it less democratic in the long run. This is obviously, among other amendments that we're going to be proposing today, a way to cut the power of the superdelegates to a little bit less than what they have now. It has absolutely nothing to do with diversity. Thank you very much, all of you who are supporting Hillary Clinton for this, but it has nothing to do with diversity. It has everything to do with getting the power of the Democratic Party back to the grassroots of the Democratic Party.
20 seconds remaining. 20 seconds remain in support.
Okay, I would just like to encourage everyone just to bring the party together, doing something to decrease the power of the unpledged delegates and increase the power of the pledged delegates would be a goodwill gesture. It would help us in the general election, that we are listening to our voters and they will be motivated in the general election to go out and vote for Democrat. It would actually help us as a goodwill gesture and it would be an example for everyone.
Time has expired. Is there a speaker in opposition?
Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman, Donna Christensen, Virgin Islands, at large member of the Rules Committee. I stand to speak in opposition. As a super or unpledged delegate for 8 conventions, and this year as a pledged delegate elected at my own Virgin Islands caucus, I think I have a pretty good perspective on this. So I would say, first of all, that there are a lot of very good reasons to keep unpledged delegates apportioned, as we always have. But there's also always a need to review the processes by which we nominate our nominee for president. And those processes need to be reviewed from time to time to ensure that they continue to faithfully help us meet the goals we have set and uphold the values by which we live and work. But there's a right way and a wrong way to do that. Rushing to judgment, especially in a time when emotions are running high, is not the right way, in my opinion. To forge a vote or to force a vote today is also not the right way. If change is to happen, let us do so in a thoughtful, open, inclusive way, with all voices being heard, all sides and opinions being given due consideration. This convention and our candidate and the next president is open to new voices, open to new opinions, whether they agree or whether they disagree. The Democratic primary process has always been fair and transparent. So let us take our time to listen to each other, to listen to everyone, and take a reasoned, objective look at how we Democrats choose our nominee for the highest office in the nation. Let us not vote before we do that. Thank you.
Is there a further speaker in opposition? If not, we will vote by machine. All those in favor of the amendment, push button number 1 for yes. Those opposed, push button number 2 for no. The machine is now open. What? Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't listening to you.
Yes. That's why I move over here so I got it over.
10 seconds left to vote. All right, well, we'll record you. How do you want to vote?
Would you come up
Yes?
here to parliamentarian?
Right, record that. We'll have one extra yes. So people will understand, one member has reported that his machine wasn't voting. He wants to vote yes, and we will record him, so there will be an additional yes when the tally is announced. If they're not working, tell us.
And if it's not working, they need to go up close and look and see if their name is showing.
Yes, sir.
Mine did not work, and I'm voting no.
All right, well, come up, please. If your machine is not working, come up here so we can record your vote. So there's one more no. Are there any further votes? Then the vote, what's the total? It's,
She'll tally it.
how do you want to vote? All right, one more yes. Stop one at a time. All right, one more yes, one more no. One more yes. One.
We'll have to verify that it is really malfunctioning.
Yeah, can you put the votes back up? People want to check and see if they were registered. For the staff, put the vote total back on the actual votes up. Please, please put the vote back up on the screen for people to check. Is that hard to do? Why aren't we doing it? Will the staff please re-display the votes so people can see if their vote counted? We're not. Can we, let me ask, is it easier just to retake the vote? Technologically, is it easier if we just retake the vote? All right, well, we will take it again. We will take, all right. Because we cannot re-show it, we are going to revote this. So once again, the question is, if you are in favor of the amendment, push 1 and vote green and pray. And if you're against it, vote against it, number 2, and pray, and your votes will be displayed. Please begin the vote.
We are voting on number 33.
This is a revote.
Of number 33. Hold on, they will get it ready. Hold on, just hold. Wait for it.
All right. If you have any doubt, go look. When they vote? All right, give me that again. All right, what do they have to point to?
The receiver is over there. Point over there.
What table? Against the wall? Well, apparently, if you point to the screen, it won't work. You have to point to to that table.
Which table is that? Over there. House right. Stage left. The house right.
That's the table over there where the gentleman is waving his arms. All right, a larger number has registered this time. The time for voting has expired. On this question, Mr. Madsen, we have an agreement, I apologize.
Okay.
Mr. Madsen, numbers.
My name is Skip Elvin Madsen from Colorado, and I'm trying to get everybody's attention. Thank you. This is another amendment about the superdelegates.
Is there a number of seconds? The gentleman is recognized to speak for up to 5 minutes on his amendment. What number is it? Number 16.
All right?
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to read it very quickly. These are the people who are going to become automatic instead of unpledged delegates, but they're automatic delegates. The President and the Vice President of the United States, if Democrats. Obviously, these are all for Democrats. The Democrat members of the United States Senate and the Democratic members of the House of Representatives, the Democratic governors, the former Democratic presidents and vice presidents of the United States, the former Democratic majority and minority leaders of the United States Senate, the former Democratic speakers and minority leaders of the United States House of Representatives. That should be a lot of people to be superdelegates right there. We have over 700. And as I said earlier this evening, or this afternoon, this is not about diversity. As much as I care about diversity in this, being a white male, I still want our party to be diverse all the way down to the grassroots. And when you have 700 and some delegates who are unpledged, who are not elected to those positions other than their position that they already have, they do not necessarily represent what's going on at the grassroots level. This amendment will simply cut the number of superdelegates down. It will not get rid of them, it will cut them down, and it will make it possible at the caucus and the primary levels of the state parties, when they are picked, they can still be delegates. The only difference is they will be pledged delegates, not unpledged. Thank you.
Is there further discussion in support?
Yes, but may I propose, ahead of my support, can we go back to having proponents and opponents to each proposal
Sure.
go interchange?
So you don't want to talk?
Sure. Yeah.
Well,
and
I
with
mean, one of the
Well,
other
I would
just-
like to talk, but I would like
Then
to split
talk.
it up. Okay. Thank you. I support this because I believe that, thank you. I believe that at this point, obviously, as we can tell through the voting that we've just had with the complete elimination of the superdelegates, excuse me? Oh, I'm sorry, thank you, I'm sorry. My name is Katrina Bergstrom. I am a member of the Rules Committee from the state of California. I support this amendment because, as you can see, we're trying to, at this point, come to a compromise. I want to say this one thing. We have traveled very far. We have spent a lot of money. We have spent $4,000 a person, all of us, Hillary and Bernie people alike. There is no better time than right now to get this done. I don't understand.
Time's expired.
Okay, thank you very much. I support this, thanks.
The time in support has expired. Is there someone in opposition? Is there someone in opposition? Well, if you want to speak, come to a microphone. I'm sorry, where's the opponent? Okay, please, people, a little anticipation. If you want to speak, it's not a long line up. We want to get finished. Ms. Jackson Lee is recognized.
Sheila Jackson Lee, thank you very much. Let me note for my colleagues, my delegates, that in fact this is more non-democratic. It is limiting the superdelegate status to a certain group of individuals. Let me be very clear. This superdelegate process was a healing process. It was a process when we were fractured in order to give more input to party activists of all persuasions, and particularly those of us who love the progressive movement or in the progressive movement. It gave those individuals the opportunity to start as a precinct judge or precinct captain and rise up the ladder by running and running and running and becoming a superdelegate. It was to bring views and perspectives together. It was not to divide us. It was not to be an elite process. It was to be an opening process. So again, I say to you that if there is to be an answer, let us have a process that really goes out and hears the views of many as to what the perspective is. And I must say to my good friend, there is diversity. I must tell you, by living in my skin, it is a superdelegate process that I watched Latino women and men rise up the ladder to become superdelegates. Asian men and women, African American men and women, and yes, individuals from rural communities became equal to others who may have a better process. I understand that we are now a smaller percentage than we've ever been. Good for that. And we have never swayed, or we have never in any way skewed an election to change it from the voting public when you look at the numbers. So I would ask my colleagues to realize that process is important and vote against this amendment.
The chair was in error. Some time is left for the supporters. So the gentleman whom I inaccurately said didn't have time is now recognized for 2.5 minutes.
Thank you very much. This is Chris O'Hara from the Rules Committee from North Carolina. All of us here in Philadelphia are here for the same reason, to unify the party and move forward together, to elect Democrats from the top all the way down to our local precincts this November. While we are in lockstep on so many issues, this is absolutely the correct forum to have this discussion about superdelegates. We already had the commission in 2008, which yielded nothing. Thank you very much. The point of the story is, with all due respect to the committee member from Texas, if superdelegates were put in place to heal a divided party, we are a divided party now. There is a 60 to 35% ratio in this room. It's a 48-52 ratio amongst the rest of the country. And we're going to keep bringing this up because this is a very serious issue. This is not sore losers. You guys won fair and square. They weren't used. This is to prevent them being abused in the future. It is undermining our democracy to have this system in place. I beseech you to actually listen. Don't just do what you think you were come here to do. Do what you, sorry, I'm losing, I stopped reading, that was bad. Thank you very much, I yield the rest of the time.
The minute left. Gentleman's recognized in support.
Again, Bruce Jacobs, delegate from Miami. The reason why I rise to talk about this superdelegate issue is because, to me, we have such an opponent on the other side who is going to call in all of these issues over and over and over again. He's going to be talking about how the Democratic Party is divided, how half of the people who voted for Democrats in this election, almost half of them, are very upset about this issue. Because from the very moment that this process started, people were told 20% of the vote has already gone to one candidate. That's a problem that is undemocratic. That is a problem that led to people not going out to vote because they thought that their vote wouldn't matter. And if we leave this Rules Committee meeting, if we leave here and do nothing about this, if all we see is 101 no and 54, what message are we sending the world that we as Democrats care about an issue that has led Senator Sanders to bring this to the front for a very good purpose? It is not democratic. It is not what we want to see. People should be able to run for office and not have the party insiders putting their finger on the scales so that they favor one candidate over another. Thank you very much.
All time has expired. The question now is on this amendment. Those who favor it will push the button for number 1, pointing over there at that table. 16. And those who are against it will push number 2 and vote no. People, feel free to check it. It does look like the same number. It does look like we don't have the shortfall we had before. In fact, we have a bigger total than we've had before on both sides. 19 seconds left, so. Nine seconds. Time for voting has expired. 61 members having voted yes, 111 having voted no. The amendment is defeated. Is there a further amendment? Delegate will announce the number.
Number 14. Oh,
I'm
26
sorry.
is before me?
Well, if we have an order, you told people?
Yes, here it is, 26.
Apparently, what's next in order, according to some conversation, is Amendment 26. I apologize to the gentlewoman. Mr. Reeves to offer Amendment 26. The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes. What is it?
My name is Chris Reeves. I am a Rules Committee member from the notably bright red Kansas. So I am proposing a compromise that I believe addresses many of the issues that have been brought up today, and that is the purpose of superdelegates and how to make it both more democratic as well as support the current system. My amendment proposes that superdelegates...
I forgot to ask for a second. Not surprising for the 4th time, there's enough of a second. Just go ahead.
My proposal provides that superdelegates shall exist as they currently do, but that they shall have no weight in a first-round ballot. There are 3 reasons why I feel that this is a much more fair and even compromise. First, although we haven't seen this year, in a situation in which you have 3 candidates come to the convention and no one can receive a majority, it does allow us to select a nominee without forcing delegates to become unfaithful to who that they are pledged to. Second, we have to remember that superdelegates are also the backbone of the party, whether we strip their delegate or not, and allowing them a full vote on platform and rules is important for people who are paid nothing to be state party chairs, state party vice chairs, and other positions. Finally, I believe that this position allows those who support Bernie Sanders, I am here as a Bernie rules person, to know that their first ballot within a convention is held only of pledged voters. Now that would make no difference this year, but it makes it clear to everyone that we support a system which comes straight from the voters and that superdelegates exist as they were initially and always intended to, only in the case that we cannot come to a decision. I'm asking for people to support this in the idea of unity between both sides. I am very grateful for the people at Netroots Nation who helped craft this, and I thank you, and anyone can question me about this later. Thanks.
Is there a speaker in opposition? Is there a speaker in opposition? Yes, Donna.
Mr. Chairman, Madam Chair. Again, I rise in opposition. You know, I appreciate a lot of the amendments that have been brought, as my former colleague, Congresswoman Jackson Lee said. And there have been a myriad of different approaches offered this afternoon to how we may amend the process of dealing with the super or unpledged delegates. I think it's a good opening to the discussion that many of us have been proposing, a way to comprehensively take a good look at it over a period of time and not rush to a vote today. And so I continue my opposition and I ask for a no vote.
Does anyone feel driven to contribute further to this debate? Yes, sir. What side are you on? You're recognized.
Yes, hello, my name is Jonathan Little. I'm from Indiana. I would like to tell everybody here that's perhaps over the age of 40 or 45, there's an olive branch being offered. The young people in the Democratic Party are angry. The young people in the Democratic Party are very, very angry. The Democratic Party is very close to splitting. You need to understand that. This is a chance to bring everybody together. In support of superdelegates, keep in mind we've only heard from superdelegates. Do the right thing. This is a chance. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Yes, ma'am.
I'm in support. I'm Charlene Yee from Rules Committee, California. I think what he suggested is a good compromise. I don't think it's a very scary, drastic decision. I think, can you imagine people in power who don't represent you? Trump? It happens all the time. People get misrepresented all the time, and I think, you know, maybe the intention was good and intended to be good, but sometimes those good intentions are lost. And I feel like, as a person from a pretty messed up community, I feel like our voices have been lost, and they need to be heard. It's not about intention, it's about the people who have risen to that power and have lost sight of its people.
Is there a further speaker in opposition? Delegate is recognized.
Hi, I'm Vivian Heiner. I am from Louisiana. I am not a superdelegate. I am opposed to this. There is a time and a place for discussions farther, but right now, let's just try to stay cohesive, respect each other, and move on. It's the chairwoman and the lady from the Virgin Islands, they all spoke. I agree that this is not a good time for this. Thank you.
Further speaker in support.
I think that this is exactly the time and the place to have this conversation. And I can't caution the people in this room who it seems like they're all just decided we're not doing anything about superdelegates. I could tell you that, you know, I started the Miami for Bernie Facebook page the day after he announced his campaign. And I have watched the people who responded to my post after Bernie said, I will vote for Hillary. And they left the page. They were angry. They were very upset because they feel like their voices are not even heard, even by Bernie. And I understand that whatever happens, Bernie understands that we need to fight to stop Trump. But that's not going to stop us from asking the people who are here. We're the delegates. We're the ones that were duly elected to come and speak for the people we represent. And I just ask everyone to take a long, hard thought before you push this button. Because if you vote no again, you're sending a message not just to the people that are on my page, but you're sending the message to all the people that are coming into the Democratic Party and saying, you know what though, something's just not right here. And that is going to lead to Donald Trump. And that is a scary thought. Thank you.
Is there further debate? Yes, on what side?
Opposed?
Go
My
ahead.
name's Jen House. I'm from Ohio. I'm also a young person, and I'm here to speak against this. I don't think that our party is ready to fracture. I know a lot of young people who are absolutely ready to come together to beat Donald Trump in November, first of all, particularly young people in Ohio. But I speak against this because I don't think that this is the proper forum. I don't think that I personally am qualified to decide what superdelegates should and shouldn't be allowed to do. I think that there will be an opportunity for the Democratic National Committee to have a discussion about this before we go through the nominating process again in 4 years, and that's why I'm standing in opposition of this today.
Is there any further discussion? How much time is left?
I don't know who.
What side are you on?
Pro.
You have 1 minute.
Angela Mendieta from North Carolina. I don't know who else would be more qualified than the very people that are citizens and make up this party. So I don't know who you think is qualified, but we most certainly, who are in the party, are members. This is the forum, this is the time, And I, for one, do not want to leave someone else at some other point to make this decision for us. So you should definitely think long and hard again before you send that message to the people that are right outside the door, not to mention the street and watching on TV and everywhere else. And send a message to Trump. We are united. We are coming together as a party, and we will beat him. But we need to do it together. Young, old, whatever, we need to do it together. And let's do this. This current amendment is it's a very good compromise. It's not taking anything away. It's making some minor adjustments and sending a very big olive branch and sending a very strong message that we are walking out of here united. And you have got, thank you.
The time in support has expired. Is there anyone else in opposition? If not, we will now proceed to vote. As before, press 1 if you are for the amendment, press 2 if you are against the amendment. The vote is now open. What's next? Five seconds left to vote or chant. The time for voting has expired. The time for voting has expired. We will be debating soon, so we will then get back to order. The vote is 60 in favor, 106 against. The amendment is defeated. We are now ready for amendment number 14.
Thank you. My name is Michaeline Kroll. I'm from the District of Columbia, and in my day job, I'm Bernie Sanders' Senate Chief of Staff. I'm offering this amendment to change the role of superdelegates in our nominating process. Do you need to call for a second?
All right, there are seconds. The delegate, the member of the committee may proceed.
Thank you. This, in short, will keep the elected officials as uncommitted superdelegates the same way that they are now, but it creates a new class of delegates who will be bound to reflect the will of their states. And with that, I'd like to kick it to our committee member from Delaware, Rebecca Powers.
Hello, I'm Rebecca Powers from Delaware. Thank you for adjusting the mic. I think that we have a really solid compromise here, and I really urge everybody on both sides of this to take a critical and reasoned look at this amendment. It's detailed, it's fleshed out. We do not have the trouble here, like we would if we completely eliminated superdelegates, that we wouldn't be putting people in the party up against their governor or their Senate person when they're running for these delegation slots, which I think is really important, which has been a strong criticism against getting rid of superdelegates. But this would limit them, so we would no longer have people who are not elected officials who haven't already been voted on by the people in these positions. I think we really need to restore faith in the process. If we don't have faith in the process, we've lost our voters. And we're in a really critical time right now. The Republicans have basically nominated a fascist, and it's close. And we need to let people have faith in our process so we don't lose our own people, and also so that we're welcoming in new people to the Democratic Party, people who did participate in this election cycle. So please take a critical look at this. I think that this is a good time for us to be looking at this. I think this is a very qualified group of people who've been working very hard. So please, on both sides, take a real look at this amendment. Thank you.
Is there a speaker in opposition? Is there a speaker in opposition? Yes, Cleo, please identify yourself.
Cleo Fields, Mr. Chairman, from Louisiana. Mr. Chairman, I rise in opposition to this amendment. We should oppose this amendment because the committee should not be trying to define specific solutions in just hours for problems that deserve adequate time, attention, and study. The appropriate way to address this issue of unpledged delegates and other issues with our nominating process is to study these issues and make well-researched and thoughtful, prepared recommendation to the Democratic National Committee. We currently have 4 types of delegates in our nominating process. Creating a 5th one, reserve delegates, would only complicate the matters more, and thus we should not support this resolution. We should be in the business of fixing the problems we have, not creating new ones, which this resolution would certainly do. Mr. Chairman, finally, the ideal proposed in this resolution is to bind the DNC members to the popular vote within their states. In doing so, we would be holding the members of our committee to a standard higher than any other kind of delegate we have today. In addition, the charter and the bylaws of the party is not the place for us to mandate such detailed allegation formulas. The level of the details belongs in the calls of our convention and in the delegate selections of the rules. I respect the gentlelady from Vermont on her resolution, but I encourage the members of the committee to please vote against it.
Is there a speaker in opposition in support? There's 3.5 minutes left in support.
Yes, my name is George Albro. I'm from the great state of New York. As you could probably tell, I support this resolution. Look, we've had this rule in place since, I believe, 30 or 40 years. We've had a lot of time to study it. But we don't have a lot of time to change it. Because if we walk out of this room with our heads low, affirming the status quo, that is going to be a comment to the voters of this country. We have to defeat Trump together. Unity is not just a slogan. Unity is coming together. We have offered the Bernie delegates every possible compromise that we could. At the platform committee, there was a spirit of compromise, and they walked out with a tremendous platform that both parties agreed and that brought the party together. We in the Rules Committee are prepared to do the exact opposite right now, to walk out divided and to give Trump the ammunition to say that we are a party of an undemocratic election. The only standard that we're asking to hold the members of the DNC is up to is the standard of democracy. Let's please come together and do something.
Charlene Yee, California again. I'm just something short. I don't think we're creating problems. There is a problem. This is the problem. That's why everyone's out here. That's why we proposed this for, what, 5, 6 times and had the same vote and the same outcome. We keep saying the same thing, hoping someone would listen, but we're not being heard.
Yes.
Bruce Jacobs again. I rise to ask people to really think about what we're doing here. Think about the message this is sending to the world. Because if you have all of these people from Bernie Sanders' campaign who've spent hours and hours and hours crafting these ideas, coming to you and saying, what can we do to make this better? And if everyone's just going to say, you know what, nothing, we're not touching it. We'll talk about it at some other convention. We'll talk about it at some other meeting. We'll get some experts who are going to come in and tell us what? That the status quo is the right way to go. And that has been the problem. That is what has energized millions and millions of Americans who, like myself, have never been involved in the political process to the extent that we are today. And if we leave here and we get the clear message that Hillary Clinton and her people do not want to support or share or help or form unity with those who've just said, we will be there and make the fight with you to fight Trump, but you got to give something back to us. You got to make sure that the next election, we don't have these problems. The next election, we have an opportunity to do something different. That's what this is about, and I hope you all do not just come back with another no on everything.
50 more seconds.
I rise in opposition. Sam Spencer, North Carolina. I would just like to point out, number one, as somebody who supports Senator Clinton, I am listening to everyone in this room, and I value everybody in this room's opinion, and I know I can speak for this entire committee when we value the opinion of everybody in this room. And the second thing I want to say is I do think that we have enough time to study this problem because Hillary Clinton is going to be elected president this November, and we are going to have 8 years to study this problem.
There's 50 seconds left in support. Is there a speaker in support? 50 seconds.
I'm going to be very brief. Julie Hurwitz from Detroit, Michigan, Rules Committee. I just want to make two very quick points, and I'm asking those of you from the Clinton camp to pay attention and take heed of Joe Trippi and Simon Rosenberg, both very staunch Clinton supporters, and they acknowledge the inherently undemocratic system of these superdelegates, and I would ask you to just not vote blindly, no, 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 as my previous speakers had said, and pay attention to the reality of the inherently undemocratic process that these superdelegates present and continue to cause those folks outside and the millions of kids who are going to not vote at all if they don't believe that there's going to be some meaningful change within this party come next November. And it is the stakes are so high that I plead for you to take this issue seriously. Thank you.
Time in support is expired. Is there any further discussion in opposition?
Hi, I'm Barbara Effman, elected from here as a Rules Committee from Florida. I'd like to say that I'm proud to be a part of the party that nominated the first African American man and is nominating the first woman in the United States. This is a system that works, and I support it. I have been elected on the district level 6 times. This is my 8th convention. I'm proud to be here for the Rules Committee. I will tell all of you, you got elected. You did a really good job. Congratulations. You're here because of the system, but there's room in this party to include our leaders. Nobody wants to run against the President of the United States. He deserves a seat at the table. Nobody wants to run against the Vice President or your Congressperson or your Senator. They deserve a vote at the table. They were elected by you. They represent you. The superdelegates are not our enemy. They're our friends. They need to be part of our system. They need to be part of inclusion. Look at what happened last week at the Republican convention. They didn't have their past party leaders. They weren't part of the process. They didn't have the people that lost. They didn't feel part of the process. They didn't have their leadership. Their leadership didn't have a say, and their party is falling apart because of it. Superdelegates and our system and our process works. Let's not change it. Thank you.
A minute and a half left for any opponent.
Hello, I'm Donna Miller from the state of Illinois on the Rules Committee. I just wanted to say that we need to be unified in this as far as the superdelegates go. Let's stop the conversation of saying we're alienating young people. We have young people who are supportive of this process. We want to make sure that we're all together on this. We will have a commission at the end of the convention that will come together and come up with a means to put this together. And let's stop the rhetoric so we don't get that out there just like the rest of the people who are sounding negative. We need to work together, and I support the process.
All time has expired. Members will now vote. You will push 1 if you are in favor of this amendment. You will push 2 if you are against this amendment.
I see people voting in the wrong direction still. This guy over here.
I'm told people are pointing their things in the wrong direction. Who?
Point it that way.
Point this way.
Not toward the screen.
Well, we have 165 people voting. It looks like everybody's done it now because... Okay, there's 23 seconds left to point in the right direction. All right, last chance. Time for voting has expired. 60 having voted yes, 110 having voted no, and this is not a pre-recorded message, I'm actually saying it, the amendment is defeated. Is there further business to come before the convention? What purpose is the gentlewoman approach the microphone?
Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the Bernie Sanders campaign, I'm moving to call for a recess subject to the call of the chair.
To what purpose did former mayor rise?
I'm Wellington Webb on behalf of the Hillary Clinton campaign, also asking on behalf of the chair.
I will interpret
for
that as a
recess.
motion for a recess, not debatable. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. We are in recess subject to, I'm sorry, if the people in the back voted, so what? And we will now recess subject to the call of the chairs.
Afternoon, and wanted to tell you a little bit about your procedure. Hopefully you still have your clickers with you. We would continue to ask that you keep your phones and your devices on silent. Earlier in the day's proceedings, the Sanders campaign had filed an amendment with all due time respect that would have been amendment to the resolutions number 11. They did that as a placeholder. At this time, I'd like to recognize from the Sanders campaign, Michaeline Kroll, and also along with her, Mayor Wellington Webb. The lady from, you are from DC, is recognized. This is in place of that proposed amendment, and you should have it before you. The title of this resolution that we will be discussing should be Resolution Establishing the Unity Reform Commission. Before we proceed, do all members of the Rules Committee have such document before them? Staff, would you make sure that the lady over here receives one? Do all members? Does anybody else? Non-numbered. It's the non-numbered one. It's the one that was just handed out. The chair recognizes the lady from DC, Michaeline Kroll. You are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And for the purposes of discussion on this, we will continue also with the 8 minutes. You're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am happy to join with the Clinton campaign on behalf of the Sanders campaign in offering the amendment before you, the establishment of a Unity Reform Commission. And this is the result of quite a bit of conversation between the two campaigns. And I want to first acknowledge all the work that's been done by the Sanders campaign on this issue to bring the issue of superdelegates to the attention of the American public. I think that this is going to be something that is very, very positive for the Democratic Party. And I know that the work that's gone into it is really going to inform the discussion that happens as part of this commission. And I want people to understand that this commission is different from others that we've had in the past. It's something that has real teeth in it because it prescribes the outcome, for the most part, that we are going to see a real change in the superdelegates, basically reducing them by 2/3. And
before you continued, I'd like to ask, for procedural purposes, may I see the hands of seconds? We have enough seconds. Please continue.
Thank you. I have several people who would like to speak to various portions of this committee, this commission that is being set up, but I want to thank the Clinton campaign for working so closely with us to really come up with a proposal that I think is going to move this issue forward in a very, very positive way.
Good evening. John Wisniewski, Deputy Speaker of New Jersey General Assembly and a New Jersey member of the Rules Committee. Madam Chair, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for the opportunity. I know the hour is late. I will be brief. First, congratulations to everybody who's had a hand in crafting this. If you carefully read through this substitute resolution, many of the issues that were the subject of resolutions before this body today are embraced in this resolution. And in that, it represents a significant step forward for the cause of all of those issues that many people from the Sanders campaign that I am here with today had a concern about. And so for that, we should be grateful that this is moving forward. I wanted to focus on two particular aspects of this. Those of us who are in non-caucus states take it for granted that when we leave the voting place, our votes are counted and ascertained and irrefutable. Not the same thing can be said all the time in caucuses. One of the major deficiencies in our democratic process is the lack of transparency and accountability often that takes place in caucuses. It's democracy in its purest form, but also it needs to be reformed so that it is more accountable and more precise and more transparent. This resolution addresses that. Insofar as superdelegates are concerned, it preserves the ability of elected members of the House of Representatives and the United States Senate and other senior members who are Democrats in our government to continue their role as superdelegates, as they should. But it also reduces the influence that many people have criticized of superdelegates being able to weigh in early in the process, and this resolution in the commission that's created will create not just a framework, but a roadmap that will move this process forward and will ultimately result in a vote in front of the Democratic National Committee on this issue. And for those reasons, chairs and ladies and gentlemen, I urge that all of the members of the Rules Committee here tonight unanimously support this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. If you'll state your name.
Arthur Cheliotis, delegate from New York, and on the Rules Committee. This compromise commission that's been put together deals with an important number of issues that we have discussed this afternoon. And it brings this party together in a way that it needs to be, given what I saw went on in Cleveland last week. As a trade unionist, I worry about workers and what the possibility of an election of a Donald Trump would mean. As a grandfather, I worry about the future of my children and my grandchildren. We must come together as a party to effect the change that we need to make sure that Hillary Clinton is elected. And I'm a Bernie Sanders delegate, but we've gotten past the numbers, and we have to come together in the party to do what needs to get done. And so I ask, we have our differences, like any family, we have our differences, but there comes a time when we have to hang together, or we might hang separately, like Ben Franklin said. And it's time for us to come together. This compromise proposal achieves that, and let's go forward, and let's have a great convention. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members to speak in favor of the proposed amendment? Please state your name.
Madam Chair, my name is Gina Grubb. I'm from Tennessee. My wife always tells me to speak my mind even if my voice shakes, so please forgive me if my voice shakes. I am rising in support of this very important resolution. I have heard today in this body, in this very room, some complaints that Bernie Sanders is a new Democrat and has no right to try to change anything in the Democratic Party. But I'd like to remind my fellow committee members that his campaign received more individual contributions than any other campaign in history. He earned 13 million votes in the primaries, and he is represented here this week at this convention by nearly 1,900 delegates. Bernie Sanders has earned the right to at least suggest some changes. Especially when the problems are so blatantly obvious. Sometimes it takes a fresh outsider's perspective to shed a little light on the dust in our house. Like it or not, there is a political revolution underway in this country. There's actually a couple. the Trump revolution of fascism and the progressive revolution here in the Democratic Party. And progress never happens without change. I urge my fellow committee members to support this change that's a-coming. Embrace it, roll with it, send a clear message to the 13 million voters who have already voted for Bernie, many of them independents who are closely watching our party now, that Bernie and his supporters are welcome in this circle, and that his voice will be heard and his ideas for a better, stronger party are taken seriously. I just heard a quote a minute ago from a young lady in our meeting who said, "We are not here for Bernie. We are not here to win. We are here to preserve the integrity of our democracy for generations to come." A unanimous yes vote for this resolution will leave no doubt that this is the party of progress and that we will change what needs to be changed together. A unanimous yes vote will tell the world that the Democrats are unified. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else to speak in favor?
Nathan Aldridge, Rule Committee from Virginia. I want to thank everybody here today for making this a very, very interesting experience. This is my first national convention. I have been involved with the party very vigilantly for the past 4 years as a local committee chair, so I appreciate the role PLEO members play on as superdelegates. I think it's great to have elected members of the party who serve in Congress having a role in our elections and our decision-making process. But this compromise truly does reach both sides of this issue of looking at the commission, since one of the complaints was that we need to study it before we decide. Well, this studies it and gives a recommendation, and I think this is going to help unify the party and make us all really proud in November when we kick Donald Trump's butt.
Thank you. Is there anyone else to speak in favor of the motion? We have about a minute, 20 seconds left.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and through you to my colleagues on the committee. For the record, my name is Paul Feeney. I'm a proud committee member from Massachusetts, and a very proud former state director for Senator Sanders in both Massachusetts and Connecticut. I rise in support of this measure, Madam Chair, and ask for the members of this committee to consider just some simple truths. That only 48 hours removed from that circus we just saw in Cleveland, that it's important for us to take our own mental stock of ourselves as a party. I rise in support of this measure because this is a result of recent discussions by many leaders within both campaigns. But it's truly driven by an activism in the Democratic Party that we've embraced, that's been engaged, and that we should continue to promote. Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, members of this committee, it's no coincidence that so many amendments have been filed today about superdelegates. The supporters of Bernie Sanders have risen up across this country. They've acted up, not to demand a new party, but to make the Democratic Party even better. That's what we're doing with this amendment. That's what we're doing with this revolution that is also an evolution, day by day, meeting by meeting, campaign by campaign. In times of crisis, you get bitter or you get better. And to my fellow delegates out here tonight in this Rules Committee, I think with this amendment, we're getting better as a party.
Thank you.
As a lifelong Democrat, and I'll wrap up with this, Madam Chair, in the interest of time. I'll say that I see firsthand in my beloved labor movement that it's our actions that speak a hell of a lot louder than our words. Well, let's act. Let's act tonight. Let's send a message when we leave here that inclusiveness, engagement, democracy, an idea that every vote matters in this country and in the Democratic Party, that's important to us. And Madam Chair, I ask that we understand that because of Senator Sanders, this amendment exists, but it cannot be executed without the support of our next president, Secretary Hillary Clinton. That's unity, and I ask everybody to adopt this. Thank you.
Thank you. The time has expired for those wishing to offer support for this resolution. Is there anyone who would like to speak against? Is there anyone who would like to speak against?
Madam Chair, I would ask that we suspend the rules to allow 8 minutes for the Hillary camp to speak in favor of this amendment.
Without objection, you may begin.
Thank you very much. My name is Sam Spencer. I am a proud Rules Committee member from the great state of North Carolina, and I'm here speaking in favor of this commission. It is vitally important that we come together because all of us know that the most important thing that we do here this week is set the groundwork to defeat Donald Trump and elect Hillary Clinton to be the next president of the United States. However, none of us want to ignore the needed reforms that we need to our primary process, and we want to come together so that every person who has been a part of the Democratic Party for a long time and every person who came into the Democratic Party this year knows that we hear you. We need to send that message far and wide across our country. And so I believe this commission is in the best interest of everybody who cast a vote, who cast millions of votes for Senator Sanders and Secretary Clinton. And one specific thing I want to speak in favor of is that not only does it address superdelegates, it addresses the caucus process. There are many people, whether they're youth, whether they're working class people, whether they're people of color, who have been disenfranchised needlessly by the caucus process. And this commission sets a framework for us to allow the Democratic Party to grow so that we have a primary process that is open and inclusive to all people, regardless of their backgrounds, and brings as many people into our party as humanly possible. And I'll yield my time to the next speaker.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Ken Rigmaiden. I'm a proud member of this committee, co-chairs. Appreciate the work that you've done. I, too, am the General President of the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades. And not only am I a testimony to be a General President of an international union, but the fact that I'm here as a President of an international union.
Too much excitement.
I got good hands. I was a tight end in high school, so.
He catch that real good.
Yeah. The fact that I'm here as a general president and I'm wrapped in the package that I'm in is a testimony to the diversity of the Democratic Party, our party. And I'm so proud to be a member of the Democratic Party. I proudly support Hillary Clinton, as do the women and men of my union. In my lifetime, I've been in a lot of debates about the future, both inside the labor movement as well as outside our party. One of the things that makes us stronger is that we come together when we emerge from our negotiations unified. We have so much hate, bigotry, and racism in this election. We must put forward a unified front to defeat Trumpism. This Unity Reform Commission is structured to empower all of us, both Bernie and Hillary supporters, to make us stronger going into November and into the future. It will make the Democratic Party stronger and more responsive to the needs of our activists, our voters, and our communities. It will ensure that the Democratic Party will continue to be the party that represents the rising American electorate. And most importantly, it will ensure that the Democratic Party never falters in its ability to drive progress in this country, and that this party continues to act as a force of good, providing an opportunity to all working men and women. Committee members, co-chairmen, I implore all of you to endorse and vote for this unity amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any others to speak in favor of the amendment? Please identify yourself and you may proceed.
Madam Chair, my name is Stephanie Herseth Sandlin. I'm a former member of Congress and member of the Rules Committee from South Dakota. I grew up in a state Democratic Party that George McGovern built in the 1950s. I benefited from a lot of the reforms that he and his supporters spearheaded in the early 1970s when I began my political career. I counted the late senator as a personal friend and mentor, and I have no doubt that our former presidential nominee is proud of the work that we have done here today in finding a compromise proposal to establish a commission to seek out the reforms that all of us know are needed as we put under the spotlight those things that came up in conversation each of us had with family or friends over the last few months. And I have no doubt that every one of us in this room and on this committee will be proud of the work of this important commission. I ask for everyone's support in support of this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else to speak in favor? Please come forward and identify yourself, and then you may proceed.
Hi, good evening, Madam Chair. My name is Seti Warren. I'm the mayor of Newton, Massachusetts, proud Iraq War veteran as well, and a very passionate Hillary Clinton supporter. I'm here today to support this amendment. I think that what we've done this evening will make our party proud and make our country proud. We've addressed some very serious issues around fairness and openness, and I'm really, really pleased that the Sanders team came together with the Clinton team and put this commission together so that we can continue to have an inclusive, welcoming party. So I'm here to ask all the members of the Rules Committee to strongly support this Unity Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members to speak? The chair recognizes the distinguished gentleman from Colorado, the Honorable Wellington Webb.
Thank you, co-chairs. Let me say that on behalf of the Hillary campaign, first of all, I personally want to say a thank you to all of the Sanders delegates. We admire your effort. We admire what you've done. You've done a great job in terms of getting additional people out, registering people, getting a larger contingent of people going to the polls. But the same way that Steph Curry and LeBron James met at half court after the win for Cleveland, it's always tough. Someone wins, someone loses. But what we do at the end of the day is we come together. And we should have no singular, more important purpose than on January the 20th of 2017, that when the Chief Justice of the United States gets up, he says, Madam President, we cannot leave here. We cannot leave here without any misunderstanding that the purpose of this Unity Commission is to get both Sanders people and Clinton people on the same page. As Clinton people, we're not going to do anything to embarrass Senator Sanders when he speaks, and we also hope that the Sanders people will not do anything to embarrass our presumptive nominee, Hillary Clinton, when she speaks. We need to make sure that the optic that goes out to the general public is that, yes, Democrats can unite. Yes, Democrats can work together. Yes, Sanders people and Clinton people are going to be hand in hand, working together to get the next president of the United States elected come November. And we have one singular challenge. If any of you were afraid, should have been afraid, are afraid of what you heard Donald Trump say, we could not set aside any petty differences. We have to set aside our petty differences and all come together in terms of one banner. And that is politics with principle. And that is business with morality and science with humanity. And we do that collectively together because we are Democrats. That's what we do. And when we do it together, we do it better than anyone else. We're the most open, diverse, gender-based convention being held in the world. And we should applaud our effort, and we should all work towards making sure that dream comes true, that this party is big enough for everybody, whether it is African American, whether it's women, whether it's Native American. And if we made history with Barack Obama, we should also make history with Hillary Rodham Clinton come January 20th, 2017.
Thank you. The time has expired. But I see the Honorable Sheila Jackson Lee. But the time has expired, so if you will just very quickly close, I think we are ready for the vote.
I will, and I thank you, Sheila Jackson Lee on the Rules Committee, and many saw me stand up here and speak to you, I hope, in a brotherly and sisterly spirit. So in the spirit of Wellington Webb, let me call us America's Party. And America's Party, the Democratic Party, links arms with our brothers and sisters who are Senator Sanders and the journey that they made supporters, and the journey that was made by the Hillary Rodham Clinton supporters. But most of all, what I want to say is that divide is no more, that we will climb this journey of victory together, that our arms will be linked and we'll go to the floor of this great convention. And I am standing here to say thank you for being who you are, for I see that mountain that we've been challenged to cover, and I am going to say we shall overcome and elect the next president of the United States, Hillary Rodham Clinton, together, together, together.
Thank you very much. As the chair sees no one that will speak in opposition, members, you have heard this proposed resolution, this amendment by our Mayor Wellington Webb and Michaeline Kroll. We could do it by a voice vote, but we know that we're going to do it by the machines. So if you would, at this time, get your clickers. If you are in support of this resolution, please indicate by that one or the A. If you are opposed, you may do so by the 2 or the nay. There being 158 ayes, 6 nays, and 1 abstention, the resolution does pass. Members, we still have a few of the resolutions before us. Please, we still have business before us. Congressman?
There are some remaining resolutions that have been filed. I will remind members, if it is an issue that's already been dealt with, it will not be relevant or it will not be germane. We are now back to 5 and 5, and I repeat, 5 is a maximum. It is not a minimum. It is not obligatory. It is late. Let us now, I recognize the delegate of the microphone, offer an amendment.
Yes, Michaeline Kroll. Actually, I'm standing to, on behalf of the Sanders campaign, withdraw my remaining 2 amendments.
May I just say this? There is no need to withdraw it. If nobody offers it, it dies. So there's no need to take the time to withdraw it.
No withdrawing.
Just
Very good.
pre-filing is a prerequisite for offering, but it is not considered an offer. Is there anyone who wishes to offer an amendment that's been filed? Is there anyone? I'm going to bang quickly, then move quickly, sir.
This is one amendment.
All right, your name, please.
My name is David Ball.
Go ahead.
This is looking at the language for Article 5, Section 2 of the Charter.
Dealing with what?
Dealing with the election of the officers for the Democratic
So
National
this
Committee.
deals with the election of the Democratic chair. Are there enough seconds to this amendment? All right, go ahead.
Okay.
What's the question? What's the number of the amendment?
I don't have the, oh, it's 2, I'm sorry. Number 2.
Number 2.
No? Oh.
It is an amendment which says that the officers of the Democratic National Committee, starting with the next convention, will be elected by the convention. That is, the chair of the Democratic National Committee will be elected in 2020 by the convention, not by the Democratic National Committee itself. The gentleman may proceed.
Thank you. I've been a lifelong member of the Democratic Party, and I've been proud of this party, that it represents everyone. It's not a party of the elite, rather a party that stands up for everyone, stands up for the disenfranchised, and protects the minority interests. The founding and guiding principles of fairness is so critical to to the foundations of our party, that these words are embedded in the founding charter of the Democratic Party as part of Democratic Party credo. At the heart of our party lies fundamental conviction that Americans must not only be free, but they must live in a fair society. We're at a time of great cynicism in this country, pointed at both parties, unfortunately. And we need to change that. I truly believe that the vast majority of the leadership of our party and the members of the Democratic Party do take these core principles seriously. But the public perception, for some reason, is not the same. We have a unique opportunity to publicly stand now for the average American voter who desperately wants transparency and accountability from their elected officials, party leadership, and the Democratic Party itself. We have an opportunity to send a clear message to the country that we are making the Democratic Party more transparent and accountable to its core members. It's our belief that the party leaders should be elected by convention delegates. Given the vast numbers of our population that no longer trusts either of the political parties, it's our fear that if the party does not respond by being more open and responsive in the way it does business, that we might see the fracturing of the Democratic Party as we're seeing in the Republican Party as we speak. By not providing for a more open and transparent election process, we are not only violating the spirit of our party, which encourages full participation in the democratic process, but we are not being responsive to the loud and clear calls of our own overall membership. I ask you, please, to accept this change in the charter.
Is there any further speaker in, well, we'll take one in opposition. Is there someone in opposition?
Only in opposition, no.
Well, I want to go alternate. Take one in opposition, yeah. Please go ahead.
I'm Susan Esserman from the state of Maryland. I'm a member of the Rules Committee and a strong supporter of Hillary Clinton. I stand in opposition to this proposal. It is unrealistic to expect that the National Convention, which meets only once every 4 years, can be responsible for the election of the national chair, the vice chairs, the finance chair, the treasurer, and the secretary. It would be unworkable and impractical, and for example, it would not deal with a situation where there is a vacancy between the two conventions. Currently, it is the authority of the elected members of the Democratic National Committee, elected by Democrats in their state, to elect the leadership of our party. We should not be taking this authority away from the elected members of the Democratic National Committee who represent their state parties, and thus we should reject this proposal. Thank you.
All right, we now can hear someone further in opposition. 3 minutes you have. 3 minutes in support, I'm sorry.
My name is Skip Madsen. I'm on Rules Committee from Colorado. A couple of things. The fine speaker that just spoke doesn't maybe know that within the rules as it stands now, this would not supersede anything that's in the rules in case of an emergency, in case somebody died or somebody had to resign or anything like that. That does not supersede the rules that are already there. So that question is rather moot. What this does is recognize what we keep being told time after time within the Democratic Party, which is that the convention, not the DNC committee, the convention every 4 years is the top seed in the Democratic Party. We, the convention, are the people that matter the most, not a committee. And I just want to say that. Thank you.
All right, the question now comes on the amendment. Those in favor will push number 1. Those opposed will push number 2. And you all point your things there so it looks like a Star Wars movie. Time for debate has expired. It will descend in a cacophony. I like that word, by the way. It's a good word. "30 seconds left to vote. Ten seconds left. 7. On this question, 44 having voted yes, 106 having voted no, the amendment is defeated. Is there a further resolution to be offered? Is there, well, please come to the microphone. Don't wait for me. You're welcome. Just walk right up. I would urge you, if you have one pending, just get in line.
Okay.
Delegate is recognized. Name, please.
Maggie Wonderley from Illinois.
And what number?
It's on page 52. It's on page 52.
Do we have it? 1 second. What's the title?
It is open primaries.
I am going to, it's open primaries?
Yes.
That was already dealt with in the text of the charter. So I am going to rule.
How is it dealt with?
But we ruled that that has already been considered by the convention. The time to have dealt with that would have been to have offered an amendment to the Charter Commission. But
Well, I don't want a commission.
Well, you've lost, so that's too late.
No, I
let me
mean
explain.
like on this subject. We
Let
did
me
not
explain.
agree to.
You could have offered that at some other time. The committee has now decided, you had a right to disagree, there were some negative votes, to take all of those issues and give them to a commission.
But
That
the
means we've
commission
already
did not
voted on that.
specify open primaries.
It says, it addresses that question in the charter of the commission.
We were told by the campaign we could still bring up issues.
I apologize, I thought that it had. All right, well then we'll take it, go ahead.
Okay, I have a petition here with 40,000 signatures supporting opening up our primary system. And the amendment is in Article 2, Section 4 of the Charter, and it changes the wording slightly. In Section E, it says to allow participation in good faith by all voters who are Democrats and voters who are not registered or affiliated with any party who wish to cast a Democratic ballot.
Is there further discussion? Oh, I'm sorry, are you through? Oh, I need 15 seconds, okay. Are there 15 seconds? Yeah, okay. You may proceed with your argument. You have some time left.
All right, this issue is important for the general election because independents is a very large percent of our population, and many of them lean Democratic but just wish to maintain some independence in their voting so they can vote for the best candidate. And many reliably in states like mine, like Illinois, they will vote on the Democratic ballot. And in certain states, such as New York, they have an excessively long waiting period for people if they want to change party affiliation of 6 months. And so that actually disenfranchises people from the system. And if we open up the primaries, the Supreme Court actually ruled that the state parties have the authority to tell the election boards to have an open primary. You know, if we open it up, we are going to get good general election candidates because the independents are a large part of the general election vote. And it would also keep people from being disenfranchised, such as in New York, where you have to have your party affiliation declared 6 months ahead of time. It would encourage new people to join our party, and it would make the voters feel like they are being heard.
I have a question.
Yes.
Can I, what is your proposal, what was filed, is it this number 10, this establishment of a commission for party enhancement, is that?
No.
All right, no, that's
No,
not.
it's on page 52
Page 52 of what?
of that document you sent us initially in the PDF.
It's a standalone resolution.
Right.
All right. Because, all right, they were wrong. Yeah, go ahead.
But your language is also in 10?
What did you say?
It's 35. Yeah, but it's separate. You're correct. Go ahead.
Okay.
There was some confusion. Go ahead.
Okay. So, there's a lot of young people who are registered as independents, a large portion of them. It would encourage them to vote in the primary because they would feel if they got to help choose our candidate, then they will come out for the general. And we want to have a really strong general election candidate who can beat the Republican, whoever that is. And basically, we need to pay attention to the independents' opinion because they may start factioning off into other parties and we will lose votes. With the more liberal Democrats, they may actually leave the party, and we want to keep them in the party. So I would encourage us to allow unaffiliated, we're not talking about Republicans or people who are in other parties, but just independent people who are unaffiliated in any party, to allow them to vote in our elections.
Is there a speaker in opposition?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Melvin Butch Hollowell from the Michigan delegation. I support fully the Congressional Black Caucus's June 18 position in strong opposition to open primaries as a dilution of the minority vote. In Michigan's March 8 primary, for example, our I-75 corridor, which includes Detroit and Pontiac, Flint, and Saginaw, African American voters actually overperformed, the largest turnout that we've had in 20 years. And in Detroit, we had an 87% Democratic registration base. The African American vote is often the decisive factor in our elections. And the open primary during our primary resulted in 1/3 or 28% voting by Republicans and independents. Respectfully, we should honor, not suppress, the vote of the party's most loyal constituency, the backbone of the Democratic Party. Diversity is our strength. Please take note. Don't dilute the vote.
Thank you. I did want to clarify, there is language in the commission that was accepted that does deal with the question of participation in primaries, but that's past us. It does talk about this, but it's quicker to just continue with this. There's 1 minute and 40 seconds left for someone in support. Is there someone who wants to speak in support? If not, we'll take a speaker in opposition.
Hi, I'm Kristen Himmons. I'm from Mississippi, where we have open primaries. We're the most conservative state in the nation, and our open primaries meant that during our last gubernatorial election, we ended up with a truck driver whose mother did not even know he was running for office as our Democratic candidate for governor. Because Republicans vote in our local elections in Mississippi, they vote in the Democratic primary. They don't know the candidates, and so they vote for the one, honestly, who sounded like a white man. We had 2 women who were very qualified, wonderful Democratic candidates for governor, and they both lost because Robert Gray sounded like a good option to all the Republicans who didn't know any better. That's what happens when you have an open primary.
Is there further discussion? If not, we will now proceed to a vote. All those in favor of the amendment will push number 1, and all those opposed will push number 2. I don't know what it says about Republican family values when they support a guy who's not telling the truth to his mother, but. 30 seconds to vote. Time for voting is expired. On this vote, 38 have voted yes, 114 no, and the resolution is defeated. What purpose the gentlewoman approach the microphone?
Prepared to make a motion.
Name, please.
Colleen Condon from South Carolina.
And
I am the only
number of the amendment, please.
I'm trying to get it now. It is the one to have LGBTQ added to our full participation charter. I was not given that.
Do we have it? What does it do?
It adds under our charter, sections 3 and 4, talk about full participation with particular concern for minority groups. It does not currently include the LGBT community. And we would ask to include the LGBTQ community. This is specifically a motion that was pre-filed by Katrina Bergstrom of the Sanders campaign.
I'm sorry, we have a little confusion to Mike in this. I'm sorry, but the speaker really has to talk if you... Guys, I mean, I thought we were for openness. Little huddles at the mic don't help us with that. So, a little transparency. I'm sorry, did
Mr.
she just
Chair.
get disappeared?
She just yielded.
All right. You're yielding to her, okay. So you were
May I
suspended.
move for a
your
short
budget.
recess?
Yes?
May I move for a short recess? Very,
There
very
is a-
short in order to
That is a
organize the
motion.
remaining amendments.
Oh, I would ask, for what purpose?
To organize the remaining amendments so that we can move through them more quickly.
All in favor of a recess, raise your hand. Opposed? There is no recess. You'll have to organize and talk at the same time. All right, well, the woman who offered that amendment, you can return to the mic and your amendment is in order.
This is
I'm sorry,
actually
the woman
my
who-
amendment.
She
and-
lost her time. She comes back. She yielded.
She was speaking on my amendment, so I think there was
Okay, but she
confusion.
has to tell me that. I'm sorry. This may sound picky, but this is going to deteriorate. We've been doing good. All right, ma'am, you have the microphone. If
It
you
is
want to
indeed
yield,
her amendment. I was looking for...
you want to yield to her?
I would be glad to yield.
You're now recognized.
Thank you. Sorry for the confusion. As members of the Democratic Party, we have always strived to be the party of inclusion and equality, and as such have included in our charter, in our delegate selection plan, an express goal to protect and include all people regardless of sexual orientation or identity. Just to clarify, my name is Katrina Bergstrom, and I'm on the Rules Committee for California.
All right, we need 15 seconds for this. All right, you got to continue.
Okay, thank you. My proposed amendment simply adds the letter Q to the acronym LGBT. Thank you. To be in line with the community's direction. That's simply it.
All right, is there anybody who wants to speak in opposition to that? No, that's not a process. It's already been seconded. Is there anybody in opposition to the amendment? If not, we will now proceed. Look, it would help if you would... I would ask the proponents of the amendment to pay attention. You can lose your rights chit-chatting like that. All right, the amendment's been offered. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? If not, I will take a show of hands on the amendment. All in favor? Opposed? No, the amendment's adopted. Next. Please leave. Next. You have another amendment, ma'am.
I have another amendment that falls in the same line.
Just tell us what it is.
Under the charter,
Your name.
My name again is Katrina Bergstrom. I'm from the State of California Rules Committee. Under the charter, there is one part out of all of the rules in the charter of the Democratic Party that is missing the term gender identity. I just moved to have that
Make
added.
a suggestion. Read what it now says, and then tell us what you would add.
As of right now, it says, under Article 1, the Democratic Party of the United States of America, I would amend Section 4 to add that word. Right now, it says...
No, tell me as it reads now.
Okay. Establish standards and rules of procedure to afford all members of the Democratic Party full, timely, and equal opportunities to participate in decisions concerning the selection of candidates, the formulation of policy, and the conduct of other party affairs without prejudice on the basis of sex, race, age, if of voting age, color, creed, national origin, religion, economic status, sexual orientation, ethnic identity,
And you
or
would
physical
add the phrase
disability.
gender identity.
That's simply it.
Is there any objection to that amendment? The chair hears none and it is adopted by unanimous consent.
Thank you.
Next. No, please, move quickly. You're next. Whoever's next, offer your amendment.
Excuse me, so we don't have people trip. Can you move all of
Yes,
those?
I can. I will bring it as soon as
All right.
Okay, but we've had 2 people almost trip. I don't want anybody to
Just push it into the aisle.
Push it, push it. We've
Help
almost
her.
had 2 accidents.
Thank you. Please state your amendment, Ms. Wunderlich.
Okay. So this is in the delegate selection rules, section C of Rule 2. Amend paragraph C to replace the word feasible with practicable and to delete the words excessively long waiting periods and insert the words waiting periods in excess of 2 weeks.
So did you want to replace feasible with practical or practicable with feasible?
We're replacing feasible with practicable, but we are saying that to eliminate waiting periods in excess of 2 weeks for voters wishing to register or to change their party enrollment status.
And you want to change that to no more than 2 weeks?
Right.
All right. Finish your conversation.
Okay. So I'm doing this to allow everyone a chance to vote who wants to be known as a Democrat, that if they can change their party enrollment within 2 weeks, and also with new voters to get them registered so they can participate in our primary process. And we're the Democratic Party, and we want to make sure everyone has a chance to vote.
I've been informed by the parliamentarian that there is a problem here because this is committed by the charter to the Rules and Bylaws Committee. So we are going to rule it out of order. Next.
Angela Mendieta, rules from North Carolina. Amendment 22.
And what's it pertain to?
It is to change the part of the preamble in the charter.
To remove the phrase "under guard" from the preamble. Are there 15 seconds for this?
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Please don't do it from behind the barrier. If you're going to do a second, you got to be in front.
We have 15.
Oh, you have 15. You may proceed.
Our founding fathers believed deeply in the separation of church and state as a cornerstone of our democracy. Thomas Jefferson staunchly believed in a wall of separation between church and state, and that the government of the United States was forbidden by the Constitution from intermeddling with religious institutions, their doctrines, discipline, or exercises. Since such clearly religious language referencing a God in any party documents violates this sentiment of secularism, we must vote to remove such wording. After all, 23% of the U.S. public has no religious affiliation. The number of atheists has doubled in the past few years, 69% of whom identify as Democrats. Furthermore, and more to the point, if we are to be the party of inclusion and fair representation, we should not advocate divisive language in our core documents. This leads to the logical question by our constituents to define God in our usage. Which God? Whose God? Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Buddhist, Hindu, pagan? Since our business is the governing of a society in a fair and equitable manner, it is far beyond our scope to enter into such theocratic definitions. There are enough forces separating the party in our country today. We must make our focus on following the most inclusive and least discriminatory path. Thank you.
Is there a speaker in opposition?
Yes.
Gentleman will proceed.
It's fine. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Bakari Sellers. I'm on the Rules Committee from the great state of South Carolina, and I will be very brief as we're getting late in the night. My parents always tell me that the two most important words in the English language are the words thank you. And from Fannie Lou Hamer to Donna Brazile to Don Fowler, even to our next Vice President of the United States, I think we all owe them a great thank you. But what we also understand is that the cornerstone of our democracy, the cornerstone of our Democratic Party, even in the Pledge of Allegiance, we oftentimes utter those words under God. I think the Pew Research Center on Religion recently came out with a poll that said 87% of all Hispanics and 85% of all African Americans worship to some God and are religious. What I want to do is be a party of inclusivity. I think striking that actually makes us a little bit more divisive. And the last thing I want to do politically is be the last party actually talking about religion as we're talking about moving forward and pivoting towards the general election. So today I ask people to stand and vote against taking out under God. I think that this is very important, not just as a Democrat from the South, but even emotionally as I am a Christian from South Carolina. But I think it represents all religions. I think it represents all people. I think it represents all Democrats. And I dare not come before you and violate those who I say thank you to before, like a Donna Brazile, like a Fannie Lou Hamer, like a Don Fowler, like a Tim Kaine. I think we need to honor them by keeping these fundamental tenets, which are the cornerstone of our democracy and the cornerstone and the foundation of what it means to be American. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
In the discretion of the chair, we believe this is clear-cut enough to proceed to a vote. All those in favor of this amendment, please push 1. Those opposed, push 2.
Hello.
We're in the middle of a vote.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I appreciate the speed. I apologize. All right, we're getting close here. Time for voting expired. 31 having voted yes, 117 having voted no. The amendment is defeated. Please state your name and amendment.
Hello, Katrina Bergstrom, State of California. My amendment is called number 7. This is on behalf of our fellow Democrats who identify as Middle Eastern or North African descent.
All right, is there a 15 seconds for this? Okay, go ahead.
As perfectly described in an article written by Dr. Jermaine Awad, professor at the College of Education in Austin, Texas, the absence of a racial or ethnic category that accurately identifies people of MENA descent symbolizes the marginalization and lack of recognition in the U.S. Arab Americans and other ethnic groups from the Middle East and North Africa are strangely both hyper-visible and invisible at the same time. It is estimated that there are 3.5 million Arab Americans. This does not include non-Arab ethnic groups that would fall under MENA. Since September 11th, our fellow Americans of MENA descent have experienced an incredible amount of discrimination in housing and jobs, amongst other things. And the threat of this increased discrimination and hate towards this group is looming large with no end in sight. As is explained in our delegate selection plan, we have developed specific goals for African Americans, Hispanics, Native Americans, Asian and Pacific Islanders, and women to prevent discriminatory and exclusionary practices that intend to deny voting rights. Americans of MENA descent have been categorized as white since the 1920s, with a continued effort by grassroots organizations to have the U.S. Census add MENA distinction, and at long last they have been testing it for possible inclusion into the 2020 caucus. As we, the members of the Democratic Party, pride ourselves as progressive in our goals, we should lead the country in our endeavors to protect the voices and votes of Americans of MENA descent, and in advance of the caucus inclusion, show our support of this important recognition and distinction in our affirmative action goals.
Is there a speaker in opposition? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mike Langton, the Jacksonville Rules Committee.
while we appreciate the contributions of the Middle Eastern North Americans, at this time, their work and their contribution to the party, we think this is an issue that should not be brought up at this late hour, and that we think this is something that the Uniform Reform Commission should better address. So we speak against this motion.
All right, we will now proceed to a vote. Those in favor of the amendment will point and vote number 1. Those opposed will point and vote number 2. Time for voting has expired. 52 have voted no, 52 have voted yes, 100 have voted no. The resolution is defeated. Next.
Hi. Hello. Katrina Bergstrom from California Rules Committee. This is for the ADA accessible, it's number 4. And before I go into it, I just want to make a comment that it was not submitted in full. My whole amendment was submitted in full by the deadline, but it seems like it wasn't reproduced in full, so there's only the first half of it.
All right, let's stop here.
Yeah.
Are you satisfied with that, or you want to order through the whole thing?
I would like to, if I may, to include the whole thing. For
All right, so there was a typographical error, a clerical error. Is that acknowledged?
I can bring it to you if you want a copy.
No, if that's, given that, I would ask unanimous consent to allow it to be presented in full. No objection? Then, all right. Can you briefly explain what was left out? Why don't you explain it?
I had included, the one that you have has an amendment to the charter and bylaws. The one that is missing includes the language in the call for the Democratic National Convention.
But it's the same language, it's just in 2 different places? Is that different?
There's longer language in the call because it goes into more
All right,
specifics.
so explain the substance, please.
Sure, absolutely. This is to just put expressly in writing into the charter and in the call the commitment by the Democratic Party for the purposes of the convention to adhere best practices for ADA
Why don't
compliance.
you read the exact language, since everybody might not have it?
Sure.
The shorter version.
The shorter version? Okay. Article 8, full participation shall be amended by the addition of the following. Section 7, to reaffirm the Democratic Party's commitment to Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, the party shall make best efforts to provide accessibility and state-of-the-art resources for all participants with disabilities to ensure full engagement in our nation's political process at the National Convention.
Is anyone in opposition to that? If not, is there any objection to adopting it by unanimous consent? The chair hears none, it's adopted. Next. All right, again, I've been told we're going to have to go back, and I'm going to vacate what I just said. The part that, it may have been that the part that was left out was deliberately left out. This body does not have the jurisdiction to amend the call. So we will accept.
Oh, yeah, I did
put
have
the question. Is there any objection to accepting the first part, which was the part printed? Hearing none, it's agreed to. Next.
In the.
You won. Quit.
Oh.
You won. You got it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, as brief as possible. First, I'm going to withdraw 28, so save yourself.
There's no need to withdraw it. Just don't offer it.
Okay, fine. On to 27. 27 is to line up our document with many states who have already made this move. Of course, we have 2 transgender candidates running for federal office.
Is there 15 seconds? they're all right, proceed, and why don't you read the amendments, a brief one, and then we'll talk about it.
In light of recognition of LGBTQIA advocates and party members, the functional term opposite sex shall be replaced with opposite identified sex, allowing individuals to serve in party roles without discrimination in their party. This allows members to serve as a man or
The
woman
gentleman will
if they
suspend.
identify.
The amendment is to replace opposite sex or to increase it with opposite identified sex. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and it is adopted. Next.
It is Amendment 19.
We have 19. It's being distributed. Can I have a copy? Never mind. Yeah, name?
Angela Mendieta, North Carolina Rules.
And what's the topic?
It is to add language to part of the charter of the bylaws for the labor movement.
Now, all right, let me check. We cannot amend the charter, is that correct, parliamentarian?
You can't. The difference is where the charter already assigns a
Okay.
task to someone.
So we can add to the charter, we can't change it.
They could have changed it, but they can't do it the way they were trying.
Well, don't tell them that, they'll do it again. All right, so is this amendment in order?
It's tight, that's close.
Which part? Is any of it in order?
Right now,
The way that it's written is if.
All right, is there a way, the parliamentarian says it's not, it might not be in order now. Is there a way to fix it?
It's written if.
Both of them, 19 and 20? 'Cause
Well,
they're-
let me see. Let's look at 20. Maybe we can split the difference here. Go with 20.
It's the same thing, it's just a different section of the bylaws.
It's the
But same
situation.
topic, just
Well, what is it? Why do you have to do two then?
because there are different sections talking about goods and services, and we want to add the union.
bottom line is that one's gonna be impossible to do because you can't always find something in your name. And they already have an internal policy to do it.
That can't be a point of order. That's an argument in substance.
But it's not in.
What about the first one, 19? Can it be made in order? All right, we'll take number 19 first. It is, it can be dealt with later.
We'll fix it later.
The gentlewoman may proceed.
Okay. So I changed the language to make it a little more, to give it a little more wiggle room. So it's to you, it would read, it's an addition, you guys have it, and it would read, use best efforts in contracting and procurements of union goods and services by the Democratic National Committee, including affirmative action policies and.
Is there any objection to that? The chair has done and will accept it. Now I want to make a proposal on my own discretion. The parliamentarian has made a point that is substantive on number 20, but substance can at some point become procedure. Namely, her point is that it is, as literally written, impossible because we cannot ensure that all supplies and materials are union made because there may not be some. Would you accept a change to say, making the maximum effort to ensure?
Using best efforts was
Right,
what I was
so
going to say.
we have a request to amend this to say, making a maximum effort to ensure that all supplies and materials are union made. Is there any objection to that? No. All right. It is adopted, and I am now, by the way, the chair is now displaying the union label in his suit coat. If you want to buy a union-made suit, go to Joseph Abboud's factory in New Bedford, Massachusetts, in my former congressional district, and you can buy them off the rack. Is there any further amendment?
No, Co-Chair. My name is Ben Darrow. I'm a delegate or a member
For
of this
what
committee
purpose do you rise?
I rise to move to adjourn this committee meeting.
Before I entertain that, we have what? We cannot adjourn yet. First, I want to make sure, does anybody have any other amendment? We're not going out of here with anybody complaining that he or she didn't get a chance to do whatever could have been done. Hearing none, we conclude that part, but the co-chair now has some other business to deal with.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We know it's been a long day and night, but before we adjourn, we do have to make sure that everyone here understands what our business is going to be on Monday. Now that our Rules Committee has adopted the convention officers, the agenda, and the rules of procedure, it will be presented at the convention as the second order of business. Once they accept the report of this committee, the officers and the rules that we have recommended here today will become the foundation that really governs our convention as we nominate our great leaders. Pursuant to the rules of procedures, any minority report must be filed with the officials here, with the Democratic National Committee and the convention within 2 hours. Let me repeat. Pursuant to our rules of procedures, any minority reports must be filed within 2 hours of adjournment time. On behalf of the chairs of the committee, we'd like to thank you all for working, but I'm going to take a personal privilege. If you look at everyone here, we have some icons in the room. I want to call out two. They're our oldest members. One of them had to leave. But if you noticed, we had Mr. Sidney Topol here. Sidney is 92 years old. He left because of his health. It got a little bit. Sidney rallied for FDR. Sidney is a World War II veteran, and he's still on our Rules Committee. He felt a little ill today, and he was helped out by the youngest male member of our Rules Committee, Forrest Bennett, age 21, from Pennsylvania. We have an icon here in a woman, and I know, Sissy Farenthold, you may not want anybody to know your age, but let's just say it's up there, girl. Sissy was nominated for the vice presidency of this party in 1972. She's an icon, and with us here today, let us remember those women who are our leaders. We have Dolores Huerta here with us today. And our young women who are here today, the youngest member of this committee, Akiko Abe from Detroit. She is 20 years old. Akiko, de pie, por favor. Akiko. I neglected to mention we had one other jurisdiction that was here and I forgot. I want to go visit them. Mariana Islands, you were here and I forgot to say that you were here, so thank you. We also need to make sure, I know they're souvenirs, but you better not walk out with those clickers. This is not a department store, but they're going to go off if you walk out with them. So please leave those clickers here. We really want to thank the members of the Rules Committee, the staff for the hard work that they've had. And on Monday, we have the opening gavel that will come down on that 47th Democratic National Convention. And our actions here will allow the delegates to do our convention business. We're going to have the consensus, and if they didn't know love, we sure had it today, didn't we? And we're ready to elect the next President of the United States, and Democrats up and down.
Point of clarification, you don't mean leave them on the table, do you?
I mean leave them on the table.
Leave them on the table. Okay.
Leave your clickers. Don't you walk out with them. Mr. Chairman, anything else? Is there any other business before this committee? There being no other business before this committee, the chair entertains a motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned.
And for the record, not that anybody might get nitpicky, it is 8:56. You have till 10:56 today to file the minority report. That's on the record.